You can go, Ankil.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kabir. My name is Ankil Bhakta. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I serve the DFW Bhakta Samaj Board. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm really excited for today's Zoom and Facebook Live cook-along event where we'll be learning how to cook veggie burgers with Priya Bhakta through her blog that she started named the Guju Gram. So some background on Priya's blog. Priya started the Guju Gram in July of last year. And as a matter of fact, this burger recipe is that we'll be making today is the first recipe that she posted. So she's really excited about sharing this recipe with everyone today. The Gujugram is a blog that started as a way for people to learn uncomplicated Gujarati cooking. You know, sometimes we can forget all the steps involved, especially if you're around my age. So this is an easy way to keep all the Bhakta recipes in one place. And the website and Instagram page that you can follow at the Gujugram have many great recipes, and requests are always appreciated. So feel free to send a message with your request. And without further ado, I'm excited to welcome Priya Bhakta. Priya?
Thanks, Ankil. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this first iteration of the cooking show. I'm really excited to be able to make these dishes with you. As Ankil said, the Gujugram is a blog that I started as a passion project in July of last year. A lot of the cooking is what we find in our own homes on a day-to-day basis. And like Ankil said, when you are around my age, you are probably thinking about moving away from home, whether that's for college, a new job, whatever it might be. And it's typical for us to get homesick for dishes that remind us of our parents, of our family. And so the Gujugram is kind of your one-stop shop to find those recipes that remind you of home. You'll be able to find basic things like gardi bhat, dar bhat, vagarli khichdi, all of that good stuff, but you'll also be able to find some easier recipes like these veggie burgers, or maybe something that you want to try that's a little bit more difficult, quote unquote, like idli sambar or masala dosa or something like that. And ultimately, this is in the hopes that as people of my generation at least, become more familiar with spices and different flavors that are in their own homes, that they'll be able to cultivate this sort of thing for their own families going forward. And so a lot of the recipes that we grew up with in terms of mutia or debra or that sort of thing, you won't find on Google. And so this is kind of the home to hopefully let people find those recipes if they haven't, had them in such a long time. And they're really not difficult to make, but it does take, maybe a little bit of practice. And so the Gujugram conveniently does have photos and videos that show you what the color of a certain vagar should look like, or maybe the consistency of your dosa batter, what that should look like. And hopefully those videos and photos make it easier for you to make recipes for yourself at home and ensure your parents that you're all well fed. So a little bit about this burger recipe. This burger recipe is something I've been making for probably over a decade. Currently, you don't find vegan and gluten-free burger options in the frozen aisle very often. And so this is a really great flavorful way to jazz up burgers. You can use this in nachos. You can use it in a wrap. This is a great meal prep option. It's very freezer friendly. So this is a really, really good family meal. Or if you're living alone or just two people, this is great for just having in the back of your freezer when you don't feel like making anything. They fry up well, straight out of the freezer. So it's just really easy, no fuss. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to get started with the actual recipe itself. And so what we're going to do first is dry out our black beans. And so what I have here is a cast iron pan. You can use a baking sheet. You can use anything really. You can use an oven safe pot. I like the cast iron because the pan itself gets really hot. And so it dries out the beans a little bit more evenly. So right here we have 2 cans of black beans that have been drained. And what I'm going to do is clear this out on a baking sheet and just spread them out in a single layer. The point of this is to get the beans dry. The thing that will destroy your burgers the fastest is moisture. So you want to make sure that every ingredient going into these burgers is practically bone dry. With that said, please make sure that your bataka or bafela, so your potato, should be completely boiled, completely mashed, and that your oven is preheated to 325. If you haven't done that already, please go ahead and do so, so that you can catch up with this burger recipe. So as you see, the beans are a little bit wet. You can see the moisture on them. And what we're gonna do is put these in the oven at 325 for 10 to 15 minutes. You don't want to bake them so much that the beans are like chivered or they're crunchy or burnt by any means. You just want to make sure that the surface moisture is all gone. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll carry on with the rest of our ingredients. All right, so the next step while those are cooking is to take care of our vegetables. So the first thing we're gonna do is you're gonna take carrots that have been peeled. You're just gonna take the dicha off of them. So you just wanna get rid of anything that's really, really hard. And this recipe is great because it utilizes a food processor. If you don't have a food processor at home, you can still make these. Just make sure that you cut everything really, really genu. You don't want any big chunks in the burgers at the end of the day. So as genu as you can cut it manually. I've been making these burgers manually since last year. So 10 years I made these just plain that way. But now I have upgraded to a food processor. I guess that is what we call adulting these days. But go ahead and you're just gonna cut these carrots into chunks. And I'm going to take a little bit off of this bichu here. Garbage bowls, if everybody watched Rachel Ray growing up, garbage bowls are really nice to have around. And if you can for the carrots, just quarter them and cut them through the core so that you don't end up with that gut turn bit in the middle in the food processor. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut these in half and then cut these in quarter pieces. This. Also, if you have any questions along the way, you can submit them through the Facebook Live link or through the Zoom chat. We have people here to moderate those questions, and they'll be kind of conveying that. And hopefully this ends up being more of a chat rather than an instructional video. I'd love to, get people to interact more. Also, if you have requests of certain dishes that you would like to see on the blog, I'm always happy to hear them. You can reach out to me on Instagram, on Facebook, all of them at the Gujagram. The page is pretty active. I post every Wednesday and Saturday. And so you can see it there. And also all of the recipes are on Pinterest as well. So if you want to keep a running catalog, you're more than welcome to do so. It's on Pinterest and you can find me there at the Gujagram as well. So now that the carrots are done, we're going to do bell pepper. As you can see, all of my vegetables, I washed them earlier. They are all bone dry. So what that means is I washed them and I just let them dry. There's a sticker here. If you already cut up your vegetables, but they're still a little bit wet, go ahead and pathar them on a chadar for like maybe 30 minutes and just run a towel over them. You want to make sure that everything is really, really dry. So if you can pathar them the night before, or you can put them in the oven at low, maybe like 200 degrees or something a little lower if your oven goes a little lower, and just keep them in there for 10 to 15 minutes. You don't want to cook them that they're soft. You still want them to be gut turn and fresh, but you want them to be dry, as dry as possible. So I'm just going to cut these up into smaller pieces because I am going to be utilizing the food processor. So I don't need to mold them much more genu than I would if I was going to be using a machine. So maybe like this is fine. And if you can, just take these little seeds out, the ribs out. They do release a lot of brine into your mixture. Okay, it's just this gumbo left. This is a great way to use up extra vegetables that you might have in the fridge. So the vegetables that you see here, they're optional. If you don't have carrots, that's fine. If you don't have marcha, that's fine. Just use whatever you have in your fridge. It's a great way to just use up whatever you have left, especially if you're living alone as a single person or just living like 2 people or 3 people. Like, it's hard to use up all of the vegetables that you have in your fridge. And so soups, pastas, these burgers, they're all really, really great ways to just use up everything that's in the back of your refrigerator. And I've had people just ask me for a tub of the mavo of this burger to just make random stuff. And I say if it stays in your freezer and you don't want to make patties out of it, you don't have to. Feel free to kind of use it however you'd like. We've used it on Super Bowl Sunday and mixed it with queso and a whole bunch of different things. So my onions are done. These marcha are not that thick at all, but I love jalapenos in burger recipes. If you don't like marchu, or if you're feeding this for small kids, obviously you can take out the jalapenos. Also, there is sriracha in this recipe. This is also optional. Again, depending on who you're feeding, how many people you're feeding, you can just customize this however you want. If you don't like marchu, if you don't like kando, if you're making these Jane for your family, this is a really easy customizable recipe. So actually I have one more marchu. So this is going to be pretty much all of our vegetables here. I keep the seeds in. Obviously, you don't have to if you don't want to. But my family loves a good dose of marchu, and so this recipe has sriracha, lal marchu. Sometimes I put lilu marchu if you have Thai marcha that are in season. All good options. So this is all of our vegetables. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start making the base of my paste here. So as you can see, I'm going to kind of switch all of this around a little bit so you can see the top of my food processor. The consistency of these burgers is really important. So what we're going to do is start making our mince. And to a food processor, and I like to use like this serrated blade because I feel like it cuts through the vegetables better. I'm going to add in, this is a 1/4 cup of garlic paste. You can use minced garlic that you just did at home. I have this in the freezer at all times. A good cooking hack is I know all of our families do this, but if you live alone, I say go to Costco, get the lasarn, and put it in an ice cube tray or put it in Ziplocs, and that way you can just break off a piece whenever you want to use it. It's just a good way to be efficient with all of your spices. But this is a 1/4 cup of lasarn, minced lasarn, and you are going to put in some of your vegetables, actually all of your vegetables. So there goes in my carrots, my bell pepper, all of the good stuff. Make sure you try to kind of get it in an even layer, everything stacked up nicely. You want the lasarn to get distributed through the paste as a whole. And you're not going to add in any of the sauces yet because you want the vegetables to break down properly. And the big thing here, guys, is don't add any salt yet. Don't add any mitu. When you add mitu to vegetables, emati pani chute, which means like all of the water starts releasing, and then you end up with a really, really soggy burger. So just make sure that you don't add salt until the very, very end, and you will be fine. So here's all of my vegetables. And what we're gonna do is just pulse this. So pulse this, And are we plugged in? Yeah. Do not put this on high. If you leave this on high, the food processor, you're going to end up with something that's very, very paste-like, and that's not what you want. You still want to be able to taste the vegetables you put in here. So just make sure you pulse it just a little bit. Okay, that looks about right. So this is what you want to see here, okay? So you're gonna want to see bigger chunks of all of the vegetables that you put in here, but you don't want anything that's just like biting into a kachu bell pepper. Nobody wants to do that. I mean, if you do, totally your prerogative. But this is basically what we want the texture to be. This is pretty uniform. You can see all the pieces are very, very similarly sized. And so now what we're gonna do is keep this to the side. As you can see, our beans are done. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the beans out of the oven. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep this to the side, just so I can show you what the beans look like coming out of the oven. So coming out of the oven, you can see that the beans are far more dry than when I took them out of the can. This is what you want. You don't want them to be completely crunchy. You still want them to be nice and soft. And this is what's going to contribute to a great mixture. And so now that we have our vegetable done, I'm going to go ahead and move this little unit out of the way. And you're just gonna let the beans cool ever so slightly. So here we're going to, in a large bowl, empty out the vegetables. We'll just keep this to the side. Please keep your food processor handy though, because you are going to need it to mash up the beans as well. So just keep that to the side. Don't worry about rinsing it or anything. All these things are going to go in the same place. So bringing our food processor back, we are going to now mash up the beans and add in our batako. So I'm going to go ahead and take my little scooper and add in the beans. Also, this is how you can tell they're done. You see the beans here? So they should mash the second you push on them. They should turn into a paste. You can also, if you don't have a food processor, again, once you bake them, just let them get thanda in a bowl, and then if you have like a bhakri press or a roti press, you can just go through and mash them. I don't recommend doing it with a fork. I used to before, but when you do it with a fork, I feel like you don't get a very uniform texture. So just try like a potato masher or like a roti press to make sure you mash all of the ingredients together. So almost there. Okay. This cast iron pan is actually what I'm going to use to make the burgers in as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and heat it up so that all of the surface moisture is gone. So I'm just gonna put this on like a medium heat for a little while. And now we're just gonna pulse these beans. Okay, so as you can see, this is what you want. You still want some akadana, but for the most part, it should be fairly mashed. And when you kind of make a little bit of like a lardo in your hand, it should stay together. You don't want it to like be so liquidy that it falls apart. And so you're just gonna take that and add like about half of your potatoes. So these are my bafela bataka. I boiled them earlier today. And you want them to be completely mashed. So as you can see, it just breaks apart. There's no resistance whatsoever. So go ahead and add in about half of your potatoes. This is going to be the main binder for the burgers. I make all of the recipes, at least most of the recipes on Gujagram are eggless. And so this is a unique burger recipe that doesn't utilize any eggs. All of my baking recipes and everything on the Gujagram are also eggless. I try to find things that you can make from scratch because I feel like something homemade is always more special. So if you're a fan of baking, I have chocolate cake recipes. I have chocolate cake, lemon ricotta cookies, and there'll be a lot more coming to the Gujagram eventually. And most of them are vegan or can be made vegan if that's your preference. Go ahead, pulse this. And if your potatoes aren't mixing, just go ahead and scrape down the sides of the bowl. Just help it along a little bit. And the rest of these we'll just go ahead and mash by hand. So take these off. And I'm gonna go ahead and take this out of the way. Bring back your bowl. And you're going to add in, you can see that there is big chunks of bataka. Don't worry, I'm just gonna go ahead and mash those because I don't want this to turn into a bean dip. So I will go ahead and mash them by hand. As you can see, it takes on this little bit of like a purple color. All right, so this is kind of the mixture we end up with. And if you see chunks of bataka, just go ahead and, this is kind of where it gets a little messy, but that's the most fun of it. You're gonna add 1 can of dried corn. You're gonna add 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. You're gonna add 1 tablespoon of lal marchu. Again, this is completely optional. So if you don't like marchu, if you don't like tikku food, definitely, feel free to not add it at all or just add a little bit. This is kind of my family's preference. But 1 tablespoon of lal marchu. Just give it a good toss. And as you can see, I'm just breaking up those larger chunks of potato. Okay, this is a 1/4 cup of taco seasoning. It seems like a lot, but actually it doesn't end up being that overpowering in the final burger. Taco seasoning has paprika, gyro, salt, all those sorts of things. So instead of putting them individually, I just use a seasoning mix, which is just regular old taco seasoning. This is a 1/4 cup. And as you can see now, like that the Me Too has started to add into the burger mix, you are going to have something that is a lot more wet. And we will solve for that just here in a few minutes. Now add in 2 tablespoons of sriracha. And as you can see, I still have some bataka left in here. If you find that your burgers are still a little bit wet and they're not sticking together the way you want, just keep adding a little bit of batako at a time. And another ingredient that helps dry these patties out are breadcrumbs. So as you can see, these are, my recipe calls for 1 cup of breadcrumbs. If you are vegan, if you are gluten-free, also if you don't eat eggs, then you can go ahead and use chokano lod. And I would say chokano lod meaning rice flour. Chokano lod you can mix with mendo, provided you're not gluten-free. So if you're vegan, use a little bit of mendo and a little bit of chokano lod to dry it out. My recipe calls for 1 cup of breadcrumbs, so just utilize the same amount in flour. And so if you're gluten-free, I'm just using plain rice flour, no mando, but just use whatever feels comfortable to you. So I'm just going to see texturally, this is kind of a little bit loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in about half of this chokano lod in here. You can find chokano lod at like Patel Brothers or anywhere. If you don't live near an Indian grocery store and you want to make these, you can utilize any other type of flour. You can grind up some oats. You can use flaxseed. You can also use gluten-free flour that you find in your like regular Walmart or anything else. So as you can see, the colors really changed. You see texturally how this is transforming. So I'm going to go ahead and still add a little bit more chokano lod. All right. Now keep in mind, we haven't added any Me Too yet, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So I want to get this a little bit dry so that when I add the Me Too and the pani starts to come out of the vegetables, that it doesn't completely destroy the texture. So I'm going to go ahead and add Me Too. This is about 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and turn up the heat on my cast iron to high because we're gonna start frying these off. So this is what you wanna get to. This is the kind of texture you wanna get to. And the patties, you'll just roll into a ball and form like a little patty. And this will be your final burger patty. So I'm gonna go ahead and quickly wash my hands and we will start frying these off. Alrighty, so I turned up the heat on my cast iron. I still have a little bit of chokano lod left. If you want, you can make like a little crust. If you're using breadcrumbs, you can kind of coat your burger patty like almost like a tiki, like aloo tiki. And that will make it super, super crunchy on the outside and really, really soft and flavorful on the inside. So as you can see, we're gonna go ahead and transition over to the cast iron pan that you see here that we were using earlier. I'm gonna just quickly take a paper towel and put some tail on my cast iron, like this. Maybe I'll add a little bit more. And then using spatula, I'm just going to grease the top of my cast iron like this, just so all those pieces get loose. return this. So in burger making, something that's really helpful is just a squirt bottle of water. If you don't have a bottle like this, just fill up a glass with water, and you'll need this while you're frying off the patties. So I'm also, that is how you know that the pan is hot. You just want to make sure that that water sizzles as soon as it hits the pan, and I'm going to explain why in a little bit. Another thing you can use if you make burgers a lot is a burger dome. I bought these off of Amazon. They were really cheap, and these help make great burgers. If you don't have a burger dome or you don't want to buy one, just get like a pizza plate or a duck run for the pan that you're going to use. You're going to want to dunk the burger when you flip it so that the cheese melts and gets all gooey, and I'll show you kind of how that happens. So I'm going to bake off or fry off a little bit of the bun first. I'm going to toast off the buns with a little bit of teal. You can use butter if you want. Both are fine. These are gluten-free buns from Walmart, or you can just use the regular hamburger buns that you get from the store that you eat with pav bhaji or whatever. Put a little bit of teal on here on the cast iron. And you're just going to go ahead and toast these. And we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to just put a little extra teal here for the burger patty itself. The first burger is kind of like the first pancake. The first burger rarely ever comes out the way that you want it to, but it's okay. So as you can see, we have a little ball here. This is about 1/3 of a cup. You can use a little cup measure to make sure they're all even. And now you're just going to press it into a patty and find your like little kind of oil spot and let it sizzle. So you're just going to let those cook. Now, if you don't want to pan fry your burgers, you can bake them. You can bake them in the oven at 350. I have the baking instructions on the recipe online. So if you want, you can use a cookie sheet. I think I have some here. You can use a cookie sheet to kind of size out the burgers the way you want. So these, again, are from Amazon. It's just a little silicone sheet. You can use this to shape the patties and put these in the oven and just bake them at around 10 minutes on each side. When you flip them though, just put your cheese and toppings and let the cheese melt in the oven as well. So these are Amazon sill pads. They're called cookie sill pads. You can find them on Amazon or at Walmart, and they're really nice to use. I use them for a bunch of things. So feel free to bake them. At this point also, you can form the patties and freeze them. So what I do is just take a set of cling wrap, I make the patties, and I individually wrap each one so that if somebody comes home and wants to use them for lunch, they don't have to thaw out the entire dabbu. If you do them individually, you can just take them out of the plastic wrap right out of the freezer and put it straight into a hot tavi. You don't need to let it thaw. You don't need to let it do any of that. So this burger recipe is great. I think if you do freeze them, just make sure you individually wrap them, because that is kind of the easiest way to get all of the patties to not get stuck. If you don't want to use plastic wrap, just put a piece of wax paper between each patty, stack them up really high, or put them in like a plastic or reusable container and toss them in the freezer. It's really, really easy to use. So you can see that this is getting really, really hot. See how it comes up, lifts up as a patty? Flip it, and you want all of that good brown stuff happening around. As you can see, my buns are toasted. So now what we're gonna do is melt the cheese. And this is kind of the crowd pleaser to veggie burgers. Basic strategy, but it's underutilized, I think, in the burger world. So what we're gonna do, I'm just using some plain old Kraft cheese. My burgers, because I prefer the vegan one, will have vegan cheese, but when I make this for family, I'm just using good old Kraft American singles. You're gonna cover it, take your squirt bottle and your burger dome, squirt Barney, and dunk it. So you'll hear that sizzle for a little while. You want the steam to melt all of the cheese. I'm telling you, the good old processed Kraft American cheese is the best when you're looking for this kind of reaction. So definitely if you're going healthier, you can utilize other cheese, but this is really, really quick. And there you go. You get that really, really nice melted cheese that's kind of liquidy and really great. And then just lift it off, get it on your bun, top it with whatever you like. I serve these plain, no toppings. I don't put any like gandom or anything on top. I feel like they're great by themselves. And then, yeah, cover them up and you're ready to go. Ready to eat. Serve them with fries, chips, whatever you really like. And yeah, these are great for barbecues. They're great for in the house. I'm going to take this off so it stops smoking, as you can see. But yeah, that is ultimately what gets us to a great burger product. And hopefully you'll be making these with your family sometime soon. They're great no matter what time of year. And because you can make them in the house, you can also make these on a flat top outside if you have the ability to electric griddle, panini press, whatever you have at home, you can make these. They're really, really simple. So thank you so much for joining. Jitu Kaka, I'm ready to answer any questions if people have any.
All right, thank you, Priya. Any questions for Priya regarding this recipe, guys?
You can unmute yourself and ask question whenever you.
Yeah, on the Zoom they can unmute or they can type here in the chat, or they can type on Facebook live chat as well. A lot of great comments here regarding this recipe, but we need questions for her. She's all pro, she can answer it.
Who gets to eat the burger first?
Well, you can see we already have some hungry people in the house, so these burgers are gonna go quick. But yeah, if you come up with any questions later, feel free to reach out to the Gujagram on Facebook or on Instagram, on Pinterest. I'm happy to answer any questions about cooking, whether that be, Gujarati cooking, vegan cooking, gluten-free, whatever you're really interested in. I'm open to exploring all of those options. And if you have requests for certain recipes that you're looking forward to, feel free to reach out to the Gujagram page and hopefully we can add them to the blog very soon. But yeah, if there are no questions, I'm good to go.
Well, some of you I know ask about this recipe. Yes, it will be on her Instagram page. She has a page, the Gujagram, and we will share that at the end here as well. A lot of great comment, Priya. Congratulations. This went very well, and my mouth is watering already. I wish I can come there to eat lunch today. I could have done that earlier, I guess, but it's you're a little too far.
Yeah,
all right, guys, any more questions?
In Dallas, we couldn't pick one.
All right, a lot of thank you. Yes, we have shared this on a chat group, her website of Gujagrams as well. And we will share this on Facebook as well. Yes, and a lot of you are asking for more from Priya. Yes, we will bring her next week. And more are in planning as well. Guys, we need questions. I know you guys all loved her recipe and yum and all that, but any questions, feel free to ask. A lot of compliments, and we definitely will pass it to her. Well, don't thank us, thanks to Priya. All right, I think there is no more questions.
All right. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Yes, and we will bring Priya next week, definitely, with another recipe, and we will advertise that on our social media channels of SRBS. So thank you very much, Priya, for doing our first episode. I'm so proud of you. Being a youth, obviously, a lot of youngsters has reached out to me to do something new, and here we go. So thank you once again, and it makes me so proud that our youngsters are learning cooking, of course. Thank you all the viewers on Facebook, on Zoom. Once again, we'll bring Priya next week at same time, Saturday at 11. Details will be shared later on. And tomorrow we will join with Kabir Wisdom session on Facebook Live of SRBS at 12:30 Central. So thank you all. This is all from us at SRBS, and please do try this recipe. Follow Priya's page, the Gujugram, and ask her any questions. You can also email your questions to her or us, and we'll pass it to her. And then hopefully she will, get back to you. And we will also have the recording of this cooking session today, and we'll post it a bit later on. Plus, this will be also on her Instagram page as well. So once again, the Gujugram is the page to follow. Please follow her Instagram, support her, and let's bring some more, youth talent to this new show that we are starting. And once again, we'll be back with Priya Bhakta next week. Thank you, Priya. Thank you, Akhil and DFW Bhakta Samaj. You guys, picked up our request very well, and thank you for, allowing us to do this with DFW chapter. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. No, she said.